This week, LoyalTV brings us to Grove, Oklahoma, where a fierce city rivalry can be traced back to a feud started over 100 years ago.
At the time of statehood, there was probably 200 residents in Grove Springs, is what it was called then. Then the governor chose Grove to get the courthouse, the county seat, and that was simply because of the population being greater there at that time. But then, you got people that live at least 30 miles to the south. That's a 2-day journey to come to the courthouse. Well, there was an organization formed to find the exact center of Delaware County, and they did. Well, they found that the exact center was an allotment from the Cherokee Nation, so just east of that town site was an allotment that was owned by Claude Washburn, or Jay Washburn. They had an election, and the people at Grove, I don't think they thought that this would happen. Felt like it was so sure that Grove would remain the county seat that they didn't bother to vote. Grove lost, yes, and that probably created a rivalry that still goes on today. That's not the end of the story. It's not just barely the beginning. Grove went to the Supreme Court to try to overturn the election, and it was upheld that the election for the site for the county was legitimate and that the county seat would be moved. But then there was something else that happened. There was a fella from Joplin, Missouri. His name was William Creekmore. He went a half a mile north for the town of Jay, and he bought a lot of land, and he began to develop a town site there to get the courthouse, the county seat, to move to his building. So he tried to sell it to the county commissioners. They turned him down. They didn't want to buy it because the election, was about moving it to Jay, not to a town called Creekmore. He went to Jay, and instead of being a town of Creekmore, he made it the Creekmore edition of Jay. He still was interested in that courthouse being in his edition. In the meantime, the citizens of Jay built a temporary wood-frame courthouse. Now the county commissioners decided it's time to move the records. Well, on the night of January the 4th, in the middle of the night, all the records were moved from Grove down to the Creekmore courthouse. The people at Jay, they wanted to do something about it, so they got hold of the governor, who at this time was Lee Cruz. He ordered his adjutant general and his lieutenant and the militia to come to Jay and to forcibly move the records. Well, then on the 6th of January, 1908, the general shows up with his militia. There was no opposition to them moving the records. That's when the courthouse officially was in place in Jay. The county commissioners decided that the wooden courthouse was not a good place for these records to be. Well, people got concerned, so they telegrammed to the governor. So here comes General Canton back with his militia. Then they started digging trenches around the courthouse. The records say that they dug 4-foot deep trenches. They put up barricades. They said that shots were fired, but the only casualty turned out to be a stray mule. But on May the 10th of 1913, the wood-structured courthouse burned down. At this time, they began construction on a new courthouse at the center of Jay. It was done in 6 months' time. The records were moved again in the permanent courthouse that was finally built in 1914. Then come time for district court, big celebration time in Jay. And it's reported that may have been the largest concentration of people in Jay at any time since statehood. Well, that courthouse was burned itself. February of 1941 is when the courthouse that was built back in 14 was burned. At my young age, I'm 79 years old, but I was on that construction site at 4 years of age. When I got to looking at the stories and stuff about the courthouse, I remembered going there with my father. The rivalry that exists even today between Jay and Grove is all good-natured. It's a rivalry that's been brought up every time there's a big ball game anticipated and it comes out of the woodwork, and everybody has some fun with it, but that's as far as it goes.
While the motives have long been forgotten, the rivalry still carries on. And on certain Friday nights, you can see the towns battle it out. Come back again next week as we continue to tell the best Oklahoma stories you never heard, only on LoyalTV.